Detroit, you need to be made aware. Welcome to Practicing Self-Awareness with hosts Robert Chacon and Jose Villegas.
Good afternoon, Detroit. How are you? This is Mr. Robert Chacon coming to you on the WCHB airwaves. And we're talking today about practicing self-awareness. We're bringing this new movement, about multiple paths to peace, elevation, and spiritual enlightenment. We're so glad you joined us. I'm here with my buddy, the Zerber, Jose. What's going on, Jose?
Oh, what's up, Zerby? How you doing, brother?
Oh, man, you sound good, man. You coming through loud and clear. I can hear the sunshine in your voice, brother.
Yeah, well, you know, that's a choice on the inside, Zerb. On the inside. I think higher than I feel.
Okay. So let's get right into it today because, you know, our 30 minutes goes quick, man. So we're going to get into it today. You know, we were going to talk about the origins of how self-awareness began as a thing in our life because I think, you know, we have this language and we have this movement of practicing self-awareness for spiritual enlightenment and creating other paths than just the conventional ones. And a lot of times people don't really understand how something came to be. How do we begin to understand this? And hopefully if you could see it in our lives, you can hopefully practice it for yourself. We have this show, we have material, we have an email line, and we have this radio station for you to call and try to help and for you to call and understand what we're talking about when we're talking about practicing self-awareness for spiritual enlightenment, and come on in and join the movement with it. Matter of fact, you can go practice it and see if it works, and you can send us an email if you have any questions and want to know how it works. But what we're going to talk about today is how did awareness begin? And I want to just say real quick, Zerb, for me, the seed was planted. So before this show, they have a show called Tea Time. And Jay is the host of the show. And he played a song today. It was my former employee. I used to work at the radio station she owned. And she used to play this song at noon. And Jay played it today, the show before us, the Tea Time to come on before us there. And it reminded me, let me just say this right quick. Let me unpack it a little bit. So you know how we met, and I talk about that in my book. Like I say, I'm from the Detroit area. He's from New Orleans, but lives in the Baltimore, Maryland, D.C. area. But we met in Pittsburgh, and I say, you know, God or something had to be conspiring in the universe to bring all of this together. And exactly. I was thinking the same thing. I said, now we decided we were going to talk about the origins of how self-awareness started. And I said, look at the universe once again, touching him to play that song, because really for me, my part, that's where it started and working for that lady. And I was in the studio one night, real late at night, and I was playing some music, and she had a vast library of like just so many different books. And so I was playing some music and I just started looking at the books, and Zerb, I saw a book called The Power of Now. And that book just changed I did not realize you could look at and approach spirituality so many different ways. And that book just changed my life, because what I was given as a child to practice spiritual, when I came to certain troubles in my life, it didn't seemingly have the power to help me transform. This was the first information that I had got that was transformative in my life. And that's what led me to awareness. So I'm just talking about my seed being planted in my beginning. And I want you to talk about yours. And then I'm going to talk about some more how the flame fired before how the flame rose of practicing self-awareness in me before I met you in Pittsburgh. But that was the seed, that radio station and that book. So go ahead, Zerb.
You know, Zerb, that was important what you said about the book, because, I grew up and everybody around me, when it came to spirituality, only read the Bible, right?
Okay.
And so there wasn't no any other way to see God, right? No any other way to see spirituality. So when I went to the Army at 17, because, I was escaping poverty in Louisiana. Louisiana, people was getting comfortable with being all right with suffering, I think the most dangerous thing we did to ourselves is that we learned to have fun in poverty, fish fries, parties and jamming. And then when it's time to change, you're not going to have the energy to change when things get hard because you know how to be all right in poverty. So when I went to the Army, I was introduced to different books like Ernest Holmes, Science of Mind. Look at what he called it, Science of Mind. That's the kind of book, and somebody bought me the book, just gave it to me. I don't know why they gave it to me, but now I do know why they gave it to me. Because what happens is you got to have what I call be a wide reader, not a narrow reader, meaning don't just read one type of book and just change the author. You know what I'm saying? Like you'll read Kitty Jake's book, then you'll read Miles Monroe book, but they're still the same genre. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Go and read other stuff so you can just have a more open view of life. There's no one way to understand life, and it all ends back to the same road. So when I met you in Pittsburgh, I was speaking at the convention, and you people lined up to get my number, but you the only one called me. And from that day on, we've been on this mission.
So let's talk about that. The day we met in Pittsburgh, it's been so many years ago. It seems like it was a couple of decades ago. And when I met you in Pittsburgh, so I had actually. So let me go back. When I picked up that book, The Power of Now, and it had changed everything, and I started reading different material. Guy Finley, Dr. Joseph Murphy. I read the guy Donald Neil Walsh, the one that made Conversations with God. I started reading all this material, and I started learning. I was like, wow, it's so many pathways to getting spiritual enlightenment, to changing your life emotional, to uplifting yourself without just the only conventional ways. And we're not denigrating conventional ways. We're saying, do you understand that? Do they work to evolve you? Because if they don't, God is not mad at you wanting to keep searching to find him. And whatever path, whatever connects with you, that's what you should be trying to do to connect, because your most important experience is your God experience. And you have to ask yourself, are the experience you having getting you to that God experience? And so what I found out after I read all this material, Zerd, after a while, I just couldn't connect with nobody because like people only know what's in their atmosphere, what's there in their environment. And it was like I couldn't get anybody to light the flame, so I think my flame started dying out a little bit, having all of this knowledge from all of these different books, because I didn't have it with anybody to share with, because nobody in my environment knew of these things. And that's when I met you. And I don't think we acknowledged so much that we both knew about all of these different readings, even though I'm sure it came up in the conversation. But more than anything, we started before we got, now I want the listening audience to understand, we hadn't got to self-awareness, practicing self-awareness as a thing yet, but all of this led to it. Our initial talks was what we talk about and what I talk about in my book, and Zerb talks about in his book, Change Partner. We became like a change partner. A change partner is like a confidant, how you would go to a therapist and spill everything out, or a confidant, or if you were at a 12-step meeting and you were sharing it. We found for years that was giving us relief. So I'm going to pitch it off to you, Zerb, and you go from there.
Well, see, it's important that we understand that language is so important, because, when Jesus walked the earth, the first thing people tapped into is that he talked different. They would even say, what manner of man is this? Because, see, the people don't understand Jesus didn't use the same information they was using. He had went and discovered something totally different, but he came back to give it to the people. The problem was, like what you just said, most people can't see that information as they have not been exposed to it. So when I started going to meetings and AA and NA meetings and talking about the mind and emotions and things I had discovered, people would raise their hand and shut me down almost like, they would come behind me and say, man, I just don't want to use. You need to take all that stuff somewhere else. And then and after a while, I just began to see, man, I can't grow here. I gotta just go somewhere else. So when you met me, I actually was spiritually homeless. Now, what do I mean when I say spiritually homeless? All the places I was going to get help, I had stopped going because they pretty much pushed me out because I was different. But I didn't stop learning. That was the key. I kept learning. And I love the way God put you in my life because, see, you got to have somebody to talk to tell on yourself, too. See, if you only know your problems, you can't change them. Somebody else got to know your problems, too, to take the secrecy away. So I started talking. When Rob met me, I was talking about my sex addiction, my overeating, my people pleasing, being on Prozac for depression. I was struggling. I had a lot of problems in my life. I mean, the three or four things I just named, any one of them will keep you stuck. I had 4 or 5 things at the same time. So I had like 4 or 5 number one things I kept working on at the same time. Then I moved into meditation where, see, when I learned about meditation, it was given to me as an answer. But after living in the moment, I realized meditation is a spiritual tool. It's not an answer. You use it to get somewhere else, but it's not an answer. Living in the moment is even not an answer. It allows you to see the answer, right? But the answer comes from your experiences. And so when I met you and we got together, the only thing we was really working on, Zerb, is stop hurting. Both of us were scared to speak up, scared of our wives. You know what I mean? We run around here, grown men, scared. Man, I remember you told me, you said you were scared to ask your mom. I mean, your mom. I call her your mom. That must be a slip. You scared to ask your wife. That must have been a slip right there, Mom. Because that's what it felt like when I'm married, like I'm a child. So when you ask your wife, you scared to ask your wife, can you go to Pittsburgh? Now, what happened if you didn't do it? Me and you wouldn't have met.
Yeah. And so we began on this journey, and you're listening to WCHB 1340 AM, and we're talking about practicing self-awareness, and we're going back to the origins of how practicing self-awareness started. And so we're at the point right now where we still haven't discovered self-awareness as a thing, but we do know that we've kind of locked in on this healing method of being able to call one another and talk about our fears, our fears, our challenges, the things we're disturbed by. We had created this forum and we ended up defining it and calling it a change partner. We still hadn't got to self-awareness. So after a few years of being able to have this vehicle for relief, Zerb started coming to me and saying, this just not working the way it used to work in the beginning. I enjoy our relationship, our friendship, and be able to talk. But now I just find myself picking up the phone, calling you to talk to you to get relief. But when I go back out and live my life, nothing changes. I still have the same set of challenges, fears. Yes, it's good to come on this phone. And so like you were saying a minute ago, what happens is we get information and it works for a while. But then we got a thing we say in church. It says Zion is calling me to a higher place. It's time for me to learn and evolve and know more. And that's a lot of problems with the information we have. We don't evolve. We don't change. We don't grow. And whatever you know today, life is going to challenge you to know more in the next moment. But it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing because it's about cultivating this relationship with the intelligence that created the whole universe. And I believe that's what the whole thing is about. That's what Zion is calling us to come to him, to grow, to understand, to be better. And so now we're at the point where we understood that the phone calls were healing, but they weren't working towards change. So talk about an incident you had with self-awareness when you came and first introduced me to the concept.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because, see, Zerb, the reason you can get information, but that's all you got. you got to go into the experience to turn that information into behavior, right?
Right.
And you know me, I've always been a guy that if something doesn't work, I'm gonna let you know. I don't care how noble it is. I don't care how many people say it works. If it's not for me,
That's what I love about you, man. Go ahead,
I'm
sir.
gonna call it. Remember the day I called? I said, "Zerb, we know too much to not be physically benefiting from it."
Yeah.
I remember the day I called and told you that. Now you didn't like it at first, but I would just tell you where I was at. I was like, man, I know too much information.
Now, can I put one quick pin in it before you finish? And what I love about you, and what I want the listening audience to really get about this part is, Zerb just said one thing: he don't care how noble the ideal is, even if the 12 steps saved him, even if it had happened to be church, if it was a therapist, the Prozac.
Yep.
He even joined another religion that was probably, I think he said something about Islam, but he kept saying he understood it. I don't care how noble the ideal is. I have to be honest with myself if it's working or not. So go ahead, Zerb. Didn't mean to introduction. That was deep, though. That was deep, bro.
Yeah, because as a matter of fact, I actually went through 3 religions searching for an answer. I went through Christianity, Islam, and Buddhism. And I still came to you and said, man, I just ain't changing like I want. I'm changing some, but not like I want to change. I want to benefit from all this information and all this work I'm doing. And that's what me and you started realizing that it's something that's missing. And what was missing is we didn't know how to live in the moment. And I remember when I told you about, you remember the day I told you, I said, Zerb, all this stuff gonna come down to self-awareness. I actually just said awareness. I said everything. And here's the experience. Here's another thing we do too. When I call him, always either he'll say it or I said, let me give you the experience. Let me put it in the physical. What we do is replay the experience that led up to the revelation. So I would call him. I call him, and I say, Zerb, man, it's about awareness. This is a telephone call I'm having with him. He talking back. He said, I said, man, I was just driving down the street. Yeah, this is when I was working for Sprint, and I would have to go on buildings to mess with the cell phone towers on top of buildings, and the maintenance man would have to let me in to go on top of the building. So I'm going to a building because the site is down, and as I'm driving, I'm listening to gospel music, and it got me real high. I'm talking about I'm floating, right? So I goes in the building, and the guy said, I asked the guy to take me up, and he said something smart to me. And it was amazing how quickly I changed and wanted to fight. I'm talking about we started walking to walk, and I said, well, who are you talking to? And I said, well, what you want to do there? He said something. I mean, well, no, we ain't got to keep talking. Whatever you want to. Now, remember, in the car, I was just happy and joyous and listening to music. Now I'm ready to do hand-to-hand combat. That's when I knew something about me I'm not seeing. That I can go from this extreme, no middle, all the way to the top. And, you know, they diagnosed me with bipolar. That simply means I don't have a middle. There's no rest area. I'm either all the way up or I'm all the way down, right? And so when I told Zerb that, I said, Zerb, man, it got to be about awareness because there's something about me I did not see.
Okay.
And I kept, go ahead, Zerb.
So let me pick up the story from there. Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead, on. Because it's been years since the story came.
Because you came back and you said, I believe everything is going to boil down to how aware we are. And you kept on saying that for a while. Now, at the time, I was listening to The Secret, which is so funny because now that she's kind of come back, Rhonda Barnes that wrote The Secret, she's kind of came back and now said, oh, yeah, all of that manifestation stuff is good, but the most important thing you can do is practice self-awareness because you can manifest whatever you want, but if you don't get peace, none of it is going to matter because really anything we're going after, we're trying to get peace. You know, I want to get this money, so what? I'll be okay. I want to get this, so I'll, so basically, if you start at peace, you're going to wind up being okay. But anyway, she hadn't got to this yet, but I was doing the manifesting. Remember, I was putting $100,000 checks on the wall, and I was playing the music CDs about money. Remember, I was going to send you one. And I kept saying, yeah, okay, man, self-awareness, that's cool. But look, let me work. It was kind of annoying me because you kept saying that you wasn't getting nothing anymore out of our phone calls. Now let's make sure we keep the listening audience on track. We're talking about now we're right at the cusp of understanding that self-awareness is actually a thing, actually something you can practice to make your life better. Let me just quick caveat. Let me just give you this quick caveat to that. We're not saying it's going to make your life perfect, but it'll make your life better. What? Because we're going to have trials and tribulations. Things are going to come and go. But self-awareness will help you change your relationship with those trials and tribulations. And is the world of difference from being in pain and growing and learning than suffering and being in depression over things that you go through. It's a world of difference, and it's a world of difference of the attraction, what you attract into your life. So I just wanted to make sure we was clear on, and this is how we're right at the cusp of knowing self-awareness. So it was in my head that whole summer that Zerb kept saying we weren't really getting anything anymore out of this, and everything was going to come to self-awareness. And I made a decision that summer that it got me in a lot of trouble and I had some repercussions that I didn't like. And I was laying on I was sitting on my couch, my head was on the back of the pillow, and I was just thinking about the repercussions from the decision I had made. And it was like I could hear your voice, Zerb. I could hear you say, everything is going to come down to how self-aware we are. And it was almost like a scene out of a movie. I said, I'm telling you, sir, if they ever make a movie about this movement, they got to put that part in. Because it was almost like, I don't know if anybody's seen the movie with Skies so saying he finally fit everything. Everything comes to light, and he just goes and drops the cup and the coffee splash all over. It was like that. It was like, I was like, that's what it was. When I made the decision I made, nothing told me, hey, this is not going to be a good idea. There's going to be some repercussions from this. And not one time and that's what scared me, because I didn't want to be living a life where I didn't even have a consciousness to tell myself something was wrong or right. And watch this now, because this is the key component. To me, this is everything right here. This next point. Watch this. I said, you know what? I think what Zerb is saying about this practicing self-awareness, I think this is something big. You know what? I said, I'm going to watch myself the whole week. And soon as I said that, all of the emotions, the negativity, the fear, the anger, the depression, it like stopped on a dime, and I went from feeling depression, anger, and fear to hopefulness, peace, joy, understanding. And that's when I said, whoa, we got something here. Because I never experienced something that turned my emotions on a dime like that. That was mind-blowing to me. And that week I did watch myself, and I saw myself practicing some things that would get me jammed up. So, go ahead, Zerb.
Zerb, a lot of times what we don't understand that what we're trying to become aware of is our mind and emotional reactions to our physical experiences. Like we talked earlier, and I told you, man, a lot of times I didn't even know when my mind was working against me or my emotions was working against me, until we started going into the moment. What's our favorite? Here's one thing we would say when we feel a negative state, we always would say, I just went into awareness, right? Now, when we say that, we use the word, I went into awareness. Now, what does that mean? First of all, since I put the word I went into, that means a decision had to be made. And since a decision had to be made, it now can become a tool that I can use in my daily experience. When I said I went into awareness, I simply said I became more observant and stopped reacting to what I felt.
You became detached from it.
Detached from it, but I make the decision to slow my reaction down. Just the other day, I was standing in the store line, right?
Yeah.
And everybody's doing it 6 feet apart. Now the guy in front of me, he walked to the edge of the counter where the cashier was. He went on through, and I moved to where he was. As soon as I moved to where he was, the lady gonna tell me, back up. Wow. And I immediately felt like anger, like, and I was like, man, who's she talking to?
She put you in your place.
Like, yeah, what the way she said, back up. Like I'm a kid or something. I'm like, back up. And but I went into awareness.
Oh, come on.
I hesitated.
Come on.
And I heard something saying, you don't have to say nothing.
Ooh.
I heard something say, you don't have to say nothing.
Now,
see, that's what we're talking about. We got to go ahead.
Watch that. Do you know how many fights or road rage or people showing out in these stores? Do you know if people had the ability to practice what you said, how much less of that crap we would be seeing in society? If somebody could watch their self having this reaction and it slowed them down. That's why you have to practice self-awareness. You have to practice. And like you said the key time to practice is when you're negative. Because we have a mind that's trained to look for something. That's why people look for comfort food, alcohol, drugs, or something to like relax themselves. So we're saying instead of looking for something that's going to make you worse, how about if you pull self-awareness off the shelf? So that can make you better.
And let me say something before we run out of time to show you too. And so we started with something negative because the negative energy is so powerful. See, we got to understand that your emotions bypass your conscious mind and go straight into your body. So when you get angry, you feel anger. You see what I'm saying? It bypasses your rational mind. But let me show you how it also worked on the other side on something when I wasn't angry. Last night I'm watching Family Feud, right?
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna say this quick because we run out of time.
Yeah, because we about out of time. Make it quick.
Yeah. Let me look. The lady they got to the part where they go for the $20,000, right?
Yeah.
And I said out loud, I don't know why they picked her because she ain't gonna get no good answers like that. Who you think got 160?
There. Just real quick, the same thing happened to me the other night. We do a fantasy football pool, right? But the beautiful thing is we practice enough self-awareness to see this. We do a fantasy football pool. And quick story, my daughter was down like about 4 touchdowns, and she had to depend on Aaron Rodgers. And look, I turned on the game. It was snowing. I said, oh, man, she done lost this day. Who threw 4 touchdowns? Cause see, but that we got to be able to see. Our mind is always telling us, oh, I know this can't go, but man, we got to go, man. This was a great show. I'm glad we touched on the origins. Why don't you give out our email for questions? We're going to do questions next week. That's going to be our show. We're doing questions, whatever you want to find out about self-awareness. Self-awareness is about a path to enlightenment, getting better, feeling better, doing better. Give them the emails, Zerby.
Yeah, self-aware 2021 at yahoo.com. Self-aware 2021, a new year, at yahoo.com.
And you can pick up my book at www.rshakan.com. Shakan is SHAKHAN. SHAKHAN, www.rshakan.com. Pick up my book. I'm also on Facebook. I'm on Instagram, Rubinsky5, ROBINSKI 5, Rubinsky5. Get in touch with me. Get me a book. Hey, it's the holidays. I want to give away a few books. So get in touch with me. I'm going to give away the first couple of people that contact me. I'm going to send you out a book so you can be a part of this movement. In 2021, we're going to be a whole movement. We are doing self-awareness and teaching people how to do it. Have a good one, Zerby. Nice talking to you, man.
All right, Zerb. Later.
Yep.
You have just been made aware. The Practicing Self-Awareness Show with host Robert Shakan and Jose Villegas. Contact Rob at 313-283-5651 or email at selfaware2021@yahoo.com. That's selfaware2021@yahoo.com. And tune in again every Tuesday at 12:45 p.m. for the Practicing Self-Awareness Show with hosts Robert Chacon and Jose Villegas, right here on WCHB AM 1340.